And with that, let's go straight across to our correspondents who have been tracking each and every move and development very closely in the United States. Siddhant Sibal with me from Washington, D.C. Also with me is Susan Tehrani from New York. Siddhant, how soon do we expect that all-important meeting to begin? What is the buzz in the White House right now, just a short while before the two leaders of the world's biggest democracies sit down?
Well, I'm standing just right in front of the White House, and the meeting is expected to start in about 15 to 20 minutes maximum. That is the time, and of course it starts at 8:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. If you talk about the buzz, the park just right in front of the White House is buzzing with activity, with a lot of Indian American diaspora which has arrived here. They are, of course, come here to welcome the Indian Prime Minister. They're doing traditional dances. They've come in traditional clothes, and they're basically talking about how this visit essentially is important to them as diaspora, given the fact that Indian diaspora, 4 million of them, play a crucial role in the American society. There are many Indian Americans in the Biden administration. The Vice President herself is an Indian American. The optics yesterday can't be missed, given the fact that the Indian Prime Minister being welcomed by an Indian American Vice President. Prime Minister, of course, extended the invite. A crucial meeting in short while from now. Of course, the outcomes will be known later today. Focus will be on the COVID crisis, on Afghanistan, counter-terrorism, COVID crisis, climate change. A lot of issues will be on the table and will be discussed in that first in-person meeting between the two leaders. Both leaders, of course, have spoken to each other in the past as well. 3 times there have been telephonic conversations, and of course there have been part of the virtual meetings as well. But this meeting essentially will be seen in context of the body language as well, how both leaders meet and of course have conversation in the first ever in-person meeting.
Right. Stay with me, Siddhant. Let's also get in Susan into the conversation. Susan, you're stationed right outside the United Nations headquarters. We've seen the addresses that have been delivered by key world leaders so far, mainly hinging on the issue of COVID-19, vaccine inequity, climate change, apart from the other mutual areas of interest, which will also be finding prominence during the discussion that will be held by the Indian Prime Minister with the US President. If you were to tell us what the overall response has been of the American media, of the experts you've been speaking to the Indian Prime Minister's visit there.
Right. I think there's really an agreement between analysts that, well, you know, this hosting of President Biden, not only of Quad members, but of Prime Minister Modi, notably in person, signals the importance of American foreign policy shifting from what it really wants to send a message to the world, that it's a push away from long wars and traditional alliances in Europe, and instead really focus on countering a fast rising foe that is China, and focus on the Indo-Pacific region and in Asia. We saw him really mention that as the first foreign policy challenge in his United Nations General Assembly speech. And we also, you know, seeing so many of these summits on the sidelines of the UNGA in the recent week being virtual, and then having this summit really be in person, first of all, really signifies that symbolically. And also, it really shows the need for the Biden administration to focus on this and put this meeting front and center, because it really put it as a cornerstone of its foreign policy, as one of its cornerstones for withdrawing from Afghanistan, saying that the reason we're withdrawing from Afghanistan is to put our time and energy and money in Asia, in countering countries like China and Russia. And this is a step in that direction, but also really making new alliances. I mean, it's not just like militarily. And, you know, the Biden administration and U.S. officials really, during a call with journalists, also made this clear time and again that, meeting with partners is really not a defense issue. It's not a military issue. It's not a confrontational issue. It's more competition, and it goes beyond defense. It's about cooperation on 5G, cybersecurity, intelligence, technology at this point, and maritime security, which is a huge issue because of the South China Sea as well. But the issue of Afghanistan is also front and center. Earlier you were talking to an expert about Pakistan. That's a huge issue. But then again, we always come back to the power vacuum and the issue of China, which is the elephant in the room, or the big dragon in the room, so to say. So a lot of importance, a lot at stake for the Biden administration, really. In these discussions, and as you said, to the two big democracies coming together, a lot to look at and a lot to digest as we move forward, and perhaps a lot more to talk about after the meeting is over.
Indeed, a highly anticipated meeting, and that has been the largest sentiment when it comes to the coverage, even in the American press, as you were telling us earlier. Stay with me, Susan. Siddhant, you've also been interacting with members of the Indian diaspora there. What is the reaction, the sense that you've gotten?
Well, yes, Molly, I'm standing in front of the White House, and the atmosphere is electrifying. The Indian diaspora has come in full force to welcome the Indian Prime Minister. They are, of course, chanting, and, of course, they have come in traditional dresses. Let's speak to some of the diaspora members who have arrived from far-off places like New Jersey and, of course, nearby places like Maryland, Virginia. Ma'am, welcome to WION. My first question to you is, Prime Minister is coming here, is going to meet. What's your expectation, the Indian Prime Minister is here in United States?
My expectation is that he can say hi to me and wave at me and shake hands with me. And the other expectation is that I get a chance to meet him.
Ma'am, how do you see India-US relationship? How do you see the relationship? You can speak in Hindi.
Hindi में बोलो कि क्या relationship है
I think some of the diaspora members would also speak. How do you see the relationship between the two
This visit definitely will change a lot. Modi ji is going to be definitely work with the president as well as the vice president. Yesterday he met with the vice president. They got a very good concrete things, they already settled. And today's and tomorrow is going to be very, very fruitful discussions will take in place, and we are a Quad meeting is going to attend.
Quad meeting is another big meeting which is going to take place. Ma'am, where have you come from to White House to welcome or to see perhaps a chance to see the Prime Minister?
Absolutely. We are here from Northern Virginia, which is like half an hour drive from Virginia here. But we're very excited. We are not only here to see Mr. Modi, because we believe in his value system, and we see that this relationship is going to be stronger and stronger because of his value system. He's one of the great leader of the century, I would say, and we really, really respect him. And we believe in his visit because this was an important visit for sure. And this, the way you are seeing all Indians are supporting his visit. The reason is this time is very crucial for India, and this visit was very, very important.
And how do you see this time between India and US? The relationship has progressively evolved between the two countries.
I think India and US, they are the biggest democracies, as Mr. Modi said earlier in the morning. So I think the relationship is very, very important between the two countries, and this is the best time. It's evolving very, very well, right? So this visit is going to increase that. Thank you.
A gradual evolution in the relationship, but the Indian diaspora playing a crucial role. How do you see the Indian diaspora? You, ma'am, have come from New Jersey. How has been the role of the Indian diaspora?
Excellent. He is in progressive mode in every matter, for Hindu, for women, for poor people, for everybody, small people also, he cares, and that's the best thing. Jai Hind.
So clearly the diaspora are very excited and very happy that the Indian Prime Minister is here. The bilateral meeting all set to begin in a few minutes from now, and a crucial bilateral meeting in which, of course, the diaspora will be a component in terms of the living bridge the two countries share.
Right, so excitement level is definitely running high right ahead of that crucial bilateral meeting between the leaders of the world's biggest democracies, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Joe Biden, to be sitting down for those bilateral discussions on a host of issues in just a short while from now. We are counting down to that meeting. Susan, if I can also ask you to explain to our viewers the significance of the US-India relationship at this point when alliances across the world are being reshaped. We're looking at a new world order, so-called, as it's been called. Also the post-COVID reshaping of equations.
Yeah, it almost seems like the international community and the world was put in a situation to make and redefine these alliances after COVID. And we really saw that between not only U.S. and its allies, but also other countries, really front and center here at the United Nations during this year's General Assembly. You know, you talk about this alliance and forging new alliances on the part of the United States. And there's this misconception that perhaps the United States is saying, you know, goodbye to its traditional allies. And a lot of analysts and experts here and former U.S. officials are saying that's not the case. It's just that the United States really needs to become more creative and forge new, stronger alliances and be more strategic, really, with its new alliances in the face of the new threats that it faces in the 21st century. And I think that's why you see the Biden administration and its previous administration, the Trump administration as well, really moving towards East and forging these strong alliances with democracies like India and really putting its attention on groups like Quad and trying to elevate it. And that's a direct quote from President Biden himself, because it sees the strategic importance in these alliances in the face of the competition and confrontation perhaps that it may face in the near future. So yes, it's very important. It has to counter the threats that it sees, notably from China, possibly from Russia as well, and that's why it's taking a head-on stance, and it's being very creative. One would say defensively right now with the AUKUS cooperative deal, and in other sectors as well. With Quad, you know, we talk about the issue of 5G, cybersecurity, intelligence, and maritime with the Quad, but we really have to also take notice that the first Quad meeting during the Biden administration in March was heavily focused on really a post-COVID world, on vaccinations, on how to mitigate a world after COVID-19. And this will also be a follow-up to how vaccine distributions are going to take place, how sharing the know-how and the science of vaccine is going to move forward. So we're going to expect that as well. I mean, this is a world with a backdrop of COVID at the end of the day, and it is going to play front and center. It's going to be with us for a while. And as President Biden said, I think he's also going to talk about how to cooperate in the future, moving forward with future pandemics as well.
Right, and speaking of which, Siddhant, the White House, in a briefing just a short while back ahead of the Quad summit, has said that there is an announcement expected on supply chains. The resilience of supply chains, given the disruptions thanks to COVID-19 and the need to reshape those alliances as well. If you can break down for our viewers what you have gathered so far and what the expectations on that front would be for India.
Well, it's a changing geopolitics, and both countries are charting new paths and focusing on issue-based convergences between the two countries, and that essentially is at the heart of this important bilateral that is all set to begin here in Washington. Yes, there was a briefing. Senior members of the administration, the Biden administration, gave details on what to expect. A special focus was on Afghanistan. When it comes to defense, both countries have been partnering. There have been regular exercises. They have, of course, signed foundational pacts like the LEMOA, COMCASA, BECA. These are the pacts which have been signed, and there have been progressive increase in engagements in other sectors as well, like space, like artificial intelligence trust, technology. These are the key focus areas during this important bilateral. Both countries will be focusing on practical initiatives in the Indo-Pacific, also fighting the COVID crisis as well. We know that earlier this week the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi participated in the COVID virtual summit hosted by the US President Joe Biden, in which essentially he talked about mutual recognition of certificates. He talked about how India's vaccine Maitri, or the vaccine export initiative, was quite popular, in a sense that 95 countries got India-made or manufactured vaccines. And this is something that has been lauded, in fact, by the U.S. Vice President yesterday, Kamala Harris, during that opening statement during the bilateral. Today's bilateral, we will expect an opening statement by both the leaders. This is their first in-person meeting, because there has been COVID crisis. In fact, the Indian envoy speaking to WION said that this visit could have happened earlier as well, but because of the COVID crisis, it could not happen. The fact that for the first time that Indian Prime Minister is in Washington very early on in the tenure of any US administration shows that how US is making sure that India is a priority, and how India also is reciprocating to it. Both the Indian and the American relation, the bilateral relationship, is being termed as the most consequential relationship of this century and a factor of stability amidst a number of global issues. One, of course, is the worries of a very aggressive China. In fact, in New Delhi, we know that Indian Ministry of External Affairs came out with a strong statement today against the line of actual control comments made by the Chinese. We know that Galwan incident is one incident that has left a deep scar in India-China relationship, primarily because of the aggressive actions by Beijing. And Beijing essentially is not changing its behavior. It continues to indulge in activities that question the rules-based order. It has been partnering with Pakistan. Its connectivity projects have come under question. Connectivity project basically on transparency, on and of course they're increasing debt in South Asia as well. There are many countries impacted by the debt crisis which happened or erupted after the connectivity projects, the Chinese connectivity project. One connectivity project, that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, has riled up India because it passes through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So there are several issues, but above all, it is the optics, it is the symbolism of two leaders meeting together at the White House very early on in the administration.